I need to take this hobby very seriously. Or you talk about somebody's game that they like and they take that as a perceived insult if I tell you not to back it or not to buy it. And you just can't win sometimes. Hey, it's Chris. Crowdfunding Roundup. Ooh, you know, we're going to be talking about it. You know, if you know which one I'm already talking about, right? It's restoration games and battle monsters, but we got some other ones that are worth talking about too. So I'll try to be more serious. I'll try to be less serious. It's a no-win situation on my side of things all the time. Let's go. I mean, we have to start with it, right? I looked at this and I said, holy cow, battle monsters, Gorilla Kong. And if you've watched my other videos on the channel so far this year, this was one of my top crowdfunding projects at the beginning of the year. This was one of my top crowdfunding projects I was looking forward to after like the first quarter. This was one of the games I've talked about once or twice on even my wish list of, wow, I think this could be something awesome. And $300,000, restoration games, putting out a very, very solid product. However, I looked at this and I said, okay, I didn't have a clue on this, right? Because they were holding their cards very close to the vest. When this launched, I was looking at this and going, wow, that's, you know, really kind of cool. I like the aesthetic. Not a fan of the miniatures necessarily, those little models. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Although Kong, much more than Mecha Godzilla. Okay. Wow, why back now? Get a special promo, not going to be available. You know, again, I am a crowdfunding exclusive person. You know, it's at least a reason to get it on crowdfunding. You can say what you will. I know you can not like the practice, but it's at least essential reason why you would crowdfund as opposed to wait till later. So I don't mind it in some ways, because I also feel like if it's that good, you pay a premium on the secondary market if you don't want to get it now, and that's fine. Or you wait until it comes around the second time. And so I was like, okay, oh man, that looks, you know, kind of cool. Okay, and not necessarily as big a fan of the small stuff, but okay. Skirmish style, initiative, action, deploying, fighting, using your card play. Okay, rulebook on the page. Fantastic looking battle monsters here in terms of the boxes. Those things look a bit bigger than I was expecting. Okay. Ooh, those are tiles. Ooh, we're modularly making this. Okay, what's in the box? Again, Kickstarter exclusive Mothra there. Okay. Whoa, colossal figures. Those are like 140, 150 millimeters. That's massive. That's the biggest thing I've seen in a long time. Dominating table presence. Oh, okay. A little bit more intro on the what you're doing, how you're doing it. Okay. Whoop, there's the first sign. Must pledge at least $125. $125 isn't a lot on crowdfunding campaigns nowadays. You know, that's not too, whoa, right? That's where I kind of said, okay, oh, right? I wasn't expecting that. And maybe, again, I'm in the minority that wasn't expecting it to be this pricey. And I believe that other people were saying, and I don't know how correct this is, and some of these prices may be concerned or regarding some of the tariff situation that is a huge screwed unknown at this point, because while it's 145 last week, it's 130 this week. What's going to happen in the next 90 days, 6 months, a year and a half? No one knows. So if you're going to buffer, you buffer, and that's okay. I don't mind that. I guess just the sticker shock of what I was expecting from this is just not this. And so that's my biggest issue, is not that I'm going to say you can't charge this, you can't buy it for this. Again, comparatively, we have seen plenty of other campaigns that do this. Value-wise, again, I'm not going to be the right person because, as I said at the beginning of the video, right, I'm an idiot. I'm a troll, I'm annoying, I am just a horrible person, apparently, if you listen to the comment section. But what I also am is a hypocrite. And so what I'll say with this, trying not to be a hypocrite, is that I look at this and I go, okay, you know what? If you want to get this, fine. You know, this is no different to me in some ways than Massive Darkness or the Awakened Realms situation right now with this War of Mine. It's not that much different to me. And so I guess I would be okay with it from that aspect. But from what my expectations were of more like an unmatched price and what I was now seeing with this, that's where I struggle. Because it gives me the Cthulhu Wars Foundations of Rome. And this is the comparison I will make just for myself, as someone who mea culpa on Thunder Road Vendetta, as someone who owns Tales to Amaze now with the first Kickstarter, who's going to own Unmatched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, is maybe Restoration Games for me is a retail buy. I'm okay maybe without Mothra. I'm more okay with now just missing out on things, because this screams more like the Foundations of Rome Cthulhu Wars that I just mentioned, right? Where eventually, if it makes that much money, I would assume you're going to have a game that's going to allow for a lower price point to entry. Sort of like Foundations of Metropolis when they did that version of things. Yes, it took a couple years. Yes, it's not quite the same aesthetic bling and table presence, quote unquote, right? But at the same time, if it never gets a version like that, if I never get my standee version, whatever it may be, right? My cube version, I will be okay with that, because I have too much game like this that doesn't get played already. I'm looking at Mythic Battles Pantheon behind the camera and over there, and that I just haven't played that enough. A God tier I haven't played enough. So as cool as this is, as cool as this looks, because let me be very clear about this, I think this looks freaking awesome. I'm gonna have to pass, because I also look at just the expansions, and this is where I'm gonna be a little critical, right? I'll, whatever with this. But the critical nature that I'm going to look at this with is that you're getting deluxified with a combination of gameplay. You have to get the deluxified to get the gameplay. 10 new classified files on each of those. And so it's not a ton, but if you scroll back up here that we passed over for a second, the classified files in each core box are only 10. If I'm reading this graphic correctly, because these are each core boxes on the left and the right, I believe. If I'm looking at this, again, let's double check. Yes, it is. So that is literally doubling the content there. So that's not just like a Garfield Games, 3 card, 6 card, 7 card promo pack when you've got 90 or 120 cards in the box in the first place. That's insane, and you're going to cost $40 for a bunch of other stuff you don't want. And that was my issue with things like Cascadia Landmarks, even on the retail. We won't check on just the crowdfunding, but the retail side of things where they bundled the player expansion and the gameplay content. It's fine, and you can justify it, but I don't want both. I want the ability to either or, and I don't like this. And someone else made the comment, and I saw that the, custom sleeves being $25 here, for 140 of them, that's a lot of money for what sleeves cost. I don't know what sleeves cost, but I don't think they cost that many. Collector's coin is cool. I would get that. I'm on the email list. And the deluxe bases are kind of okay, I guess. Do you want to bling this out? Is this your thing? And if it's your thing, I have no problem with it whatsoever. But it was just sticker shock for a lot of people, and this is why it was sticker shock, right? One box is 125. The bundle deal with Mothra is $299, and the mega bundle to get all of the deluxifications in it with it is $379. Again, not terribly different than, say, something like Primal the Awakening. So it's just, I expected that with Primal. I didn't expect it with this, and I'll say the same thing I said with Primal. I would love it. I would actually, again, prefer it if it did the Oathsworn Gloomhaven Team Standee, because I own those copies in the first place. So say what you will. It's Skirmish. They're bringing it back. It's stretched to the max. There are no stretch goals. Deluxified out of the box. So that's what I'll say kudos to, though, is it's not like hiding behind this all-in that Simon sometimes does, where they say, well, we're not going to tell you the all-in price until the end of the campaign. So again, I will give kudos where kudos is due, because I like that aspect. If you're not familiar with it, though, let's pull up the rulebook just so you can get a sense of things. It's a skirmish-style game, right? These are your various icons. You resolve initiative cards from the deck that are going to give you multiple ways of activating your Titans or your troops. You have one Titan, you have 10 troops of 3 different kinds. It basically just tells you what to do. When you activate, you do each of these 4 things once. Move a troop, attack, interact, or place a defeated troop onto the board on the back row closest to you. So that's what you're doing. And it's just going until you take out your opponent. So it's fine. There's environmental effects. There's flight and powers and moving as you're going along, ranged and dice-based attacks of how you're hitting and generating hits. White dice are defensive and block and negate. So it gives you an example of how you're going to be doing that. I mean, it's very straightforward in the same line of things like a Thunder Road Vendetta. It's not going to be the absolute minutia of the 37-page rule book that's going to give it. It's the how you adapt on the board in the first place. How is this different than the original edition? I have no clue. I'm not familiar with the original edition. it's gonna get a lot more money. And what's really surprising, though, I guess at the same time, not, is you have well over 50% of your backers. You have 1,100 backers right now, and you have 682 getting the mega bundle. So higher proportion, and also at the same time lower proportion than I would have expected. But I don't know. What do you think? How much of an idiot am I? Now we're going over to AllPlay, secret campaign. Now, this is, again, kind of dealing with the tariff situation as well. There are 3 waves going to be deliverable. June, October, and I believe January is what they say. So that you can see wave 1, wave 2, and wave 3. And at the time of me filming this, they've only actually announced what 4 of these games specifically are. So we'll talk about those very briefly, and then we'll go over some of the descriptions for the other ones. But this is no different necessarily than a lot of the other multi-game campaigns. If you don't love them, you wait. If you don't love them all, you don't bundle them to save, because you're still spending more to save more. And I guess this also begs the question when we put this one right after Battle Monsters, right? Are you okay with paying $200+ to get 9 games, or $200+ to get 1 game? That's maybe 1 game that you can play more, but 9 games for cost versus value, right? That's the eternal debate. What's a good value? And we're going to see. And it's kind of nice, though. They say that if you pre-ordered some of these on their website, because this first wave is actually available, they'll refund you. So you can get that as well if you want from that aspect. First up is Alibis. It's code names cooperatively, if you will. You all get 2 villains. You have to name a word that allies your 2 villains so that everyone else will know which villains you have, before being able to ultimately deduce which villain was not given to all of the players, so that that one is the true bad guy. That's it in a nutshell. High Rise. You move around, you build based on the spaces that you are moving forward to on a one-way track, and you move to any unoccupied space in front of you, taking the action that's there. Corruption to push through the red tape, and constructing those skyscrapers you saw above in your city to help you use those more powerful abilities to be the one that builds the biggest and the best. So I kind of like that. I like the go around and, choose the spot you want, but other people are going to be able to go and catch up to you and maybe get other ones. Wordsy, again, it's sort of like a deductive word-based situation where you use as many letters in the middle of the table and any number of other letters that you want, score based on how obscure you can make it with clever open-ended word-making rules and scaling that it says with many players. So that's the one I know least about. And then trick-taking from the good old Dr. Nizia here. And this is going to be a trick-taking game in the lines of when you get 3 tricks, you're out, and you score based on how many tricks you have, as well as how many other people took tricks before you went out. But if you're the last one to go out trying to be too greedy, then you only score your own. It's kind of a neat concept here. Secret game number 1. And this says special player powers. Okay. Movies. Okay. It's been fun to take a received game and make a new twist. And, well, we'll see. It's a sequel to incorporate feedback into the game we're making. I'll have to look this up after this and see what they've got that has secret player powers. Master of Tubes, a Euro small box, new development, create a new 2nd edition that plays faster, smoother, and sharper. I don't know. Again, remakes are interesting. Do you want the remake? Is the remake going to be better? Are you better off with the first one? Bread, Butter, and Battlestar Galactica. Okay, Things in Rings. Great reviews for that, and this is giving a ridiculous theme and artwork to go along with it. When you make a connection, it feels like magic. I don't know, you've intrigued me with the Battlestar Galactica situation, and you can't say anything else. Dirt simple rules, gameplay that challenges you to think about every decision. Okay. It's like the mind sort of situation, but they just can't tell you more. Splitting treasures, no fun. Trick-taking with a twist, and playing the low card gets you something helpful or harmful. So again, another trick taker. I'm a fan. And I actually just got 1 or 2 games from AllPlay that I'll be reviewing shortly on the channel from one of their previous campaigns. So I think it's always intriguing, but personally speaking, until you show me all the details, as intriguing as some of these ones sound, kind of wait and see. I just wanted to hop over to GameFound here and mention this, because we're going to go on vacation later this summer, and my family loves doing puzzles when we go on vacation. And I was thinking about picking up one of the big board game puzzles that's over on Amazon or from one of the other companies that's sort of turned a couple other games into that. But I just like the idea of this. And if this was like actually available anytime soon, I would think about getting it, because that's kind of cool. And these are super tough, and my family really loves tough puzzles. So out of curiosity, when are these actually going to be? Ooh, June. Man, if they could promise me that, I would definitely be in. But holy balls, speaking of prices, right? All the puzzles, $800, and 3 of them for $150. So I can do cardboard for, 10 or 12. But I like the idea of this, and these are cool. So if someone would send one to me or buy one for me, I'd be all for it. But for this cost, I can't do it even as cool as this is, because I'm also not one of those people that loves doing this over and over again, even though my wife is. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention it. And I think this is actually a sleeper hit. I was covering this before it changed names from King Raccoon, and it's not even funded at the time of me filming this, but I think this has really some kind of cool sleeper hit potential of Titan Zero here, because we're fighting kaiju again, right? But it's outer space protection in a solo cooperative version, and I just kind of like the mechanics that they've got going on here. Cooperative, customizable, unique abilities for all of the different characters. They are completely different. And with this, you get an expansion campaign for Taserhead, right? Laser and sharks combined, as well as an extra character, Professor Dr. R. King. I don't know. You can get it for what it is. Scheduled unlocks here, giving you a new Titan and a new Titan for the core box. So that's going to be the biggest thing that you're going to want, is because there aren't a ton of Titans in the core box in the first place, I believe. So getting a few extras through the stretch goals here is actually kind of cool. And I like the aesthetic they kind of changed to, because I don't feel like when I originally found this in 2024, it was the same. So what you're doing essentially is taking your unique scenario and your unique character and fighting off these Titans. And so 2 Titans in the core box originally right now, using your assistants, your sponsors, and your countermeasures to deal with the actions on a dice placed stealing system. Because what you do at the beginning of the round is you place dice. And so then these dice are rolled and placed on the bad guys. And the dice that you grab are stolen straight from the actual enemies. And this is how the description goes into it, is it's because, and so the actions and the dynamics of how it's going to be reacting and taking its turn are going to be completely different on a round by round basis, as it says here. If you take the highest die, well, then you might teleport or unleash that area that's left. And then if you take a certain number, well, again, it's going to change how it's going to go. And they're all going to have different ways of things that you're going to have to deal with. And I just kind of like it. It's straight, it's streamlined, it's standee, and it gives you a little bit of description of the characters here about how they are asymmetric, not an actual mechanical description, but at least that. And, you know, it's not a class, it's a philosophy. So the other really interesting, intriguing aspect here is that you are not actually just doing straight up damage to hit points. You actually remove markers. And so you're going to be wanting to, you know, shape their bag so that they have more wounds and less decoys in order to take them out in the first place. So I like that as well. Here are the scenarios that go along with the one-shots and the Titans. So yeah, if you want a little bit of upgrade here, the acrylic tokens, if you want a little bit more detail, again, gameplay, standees, it's kind of a weird image, but I like it. I like it in that aspect. And so it was on my radar at the end of 2024. I took it off with some of the changes in the aesthetic versions, and now it's back on my wish list. So, you know, 70 euros right now is going to get you the expansion, the stretch goals, and the base game. 50 euros is just the expansion and the stretch goals, and 90 euros is going to get you stretch goals and deluxifications. So you want a little acrylic standees, you can do that in addition. I just think it looks kind of cool. Now, Tsukiyumi, I know there's been some issues with that one, so I can't speak to that, but they're addressing it on the page. So again, it's going to be interesting, and I'm not sure I'm still like totally sold on it, but it looks better than what I was expecting before the launch, and so I give kudos, and it will probably be even funded by the time you guys watch this video. Now we're talking Rewild and South America. $43,000. This is a little bit of an Ark Nova-esque tile-laying spectacular combination, if you're familiar with either of those games, because essentially what you've got going on is a 7-card action hand. One of them is a harvest, basically play it, get your cards back, but then you have 6 symmetrical cards between all players that you're going to be using that each have 2 actions on them to play on a turn-by-turn basis. And once you play, it stays played until you use that aforementioned harvest card. And these are going to get you resources in order to take all of the subsequent actions that you can be drafting from. Because what you're also going to be doing on the second phase of things, after you play these cards to get resources, to pay resources, to complete whatever you may want to do on your board, you're also potentially attracting market cards from this center board that are plants, animals, predators, everything along the way, because that's also going to be basically how you're going to be winning, is by attracting more of these and better ones than your opponent. Because what you're going to be doing as you're drafting these is also having a simultaneous way to get these tiles that you can see in the picture right up here that's going to affect the placement of said animals in the first place. So you can see that that's going to be what you're doing. You've got two different modes as well that they allude to right there. All the different biome tiles, trees, wildlife cards, predation cards, plant cards, everything I just mentioned there. Two different modes that are offered, including that expert mode, and they give you a little bit of overview right here, and the rule book is also on the page. So it gives you the same sort of synopsis I just said. Carry out your action, attract cards from the scoreboard, place them on the right side of your player board, and you go until someone has, I believe, 8 total, or the scoreboard is out of animals. And you'll always have a choice, it says, of these types of markets: the wildlife, the plants, and the predation cards. So if you want them, again, it tells you what resources you're going to need to require, and it says you can attract up to 5 of these on a turn, which would be a lot, but you also have to be able to place them as well, because that's where sort of the Life of Amazonia vibe, I guess, comes in there with a spectacular combination. So, I mean, the artwork is nice. I like the mechanics of all 3 of those games that I mentioned. So this one's actually on my short list to give a look-see and my wish list. So we'll see. Plenty of video content here as well. What's the pricing of this one? Okay, $71 for the base game with all stretch goals. And then $95 gets you a copy with the Flow Untamed Rivers. Is that a separate game altogether? It looks like that's a separate game altogether. And if you want 2 copies, you can do that as well. Flow Untamed Rivers is another clever, fast board game, they say down here, representing the endangered species. And you are covering a lot of the same biomes, but also a slightly different portion of them. And it's not an expansion. I'm not going to cover that one any more details, but the rulebook, again, is right there. What are the stretch goals? I completely missed those. Oh, no, just kidding. Didn't get to them. So we're going to see just more biome tiles. Okay, more gameplay and a little bit aesthetic. I'm relatively pleased this week with some of the indie offerings, and so if this one's for you, give it a look-see. The second one I'm going to give a little shout-out to, this is my other dark horse sleeper hit of the week, is River Rats. And this is very reminiscent of Regicide in the sense that you don't actually need this. You can play it with just a regular deck of cards, but that wouldn't be any fun. And this is the game meets the gang, if you will, or the game meets the gang meets poker, because what you're trying to do is make the AI, the game itself, get 3 debt before you get 3 debt. And so what you're going to be doing is having a 3-card draw in order to fill up your hand to make the best 5-card you make the best 5-card hand you can. But the AI is going to use whatever they have available to them as well, and you're going to have to, well, manipulate that based on the actions that you get with each of the 4 different suits in order to make your hand collectively better than the games itself. And that's the basic overview of it. Now, if you want a little bit more in-depth on how to play, you can go down here, and we're going to start to see what we can get here. This gives you a little print and play, and basically this is an indie game that what you see is what you get. Not going to be a whole lot of extras, and that's okay. So if you want a little bit more details, though, I pulled up the rulebook really quickly, right? Reveal 5 cards, the river, as they say in poker. Place them next to the active river rat, which are going to have asymmetric abilities that are going to manipulate things. Draw 2 extras, place them face down. The river rat's hand, as it says here, face up of 5 cards and 2 face down cards. Reveal a joker card, place it next up, and then this is the prediction and the first deck card of the round. It's the ante, essentially, is what they're saying. Then you get to do their ability, and you can't, as I mentioned with the game and the gang, actually hint or tell other people what you have in terms of what you're going for. So what you're doing then essentially is you're getting these 3 cards. If you have fewer of them, you're drawing up, and then you get to play one in the face up situation, manipulate, use the power, or add the joker. If the hand actually then has at least 5 cards, you then compare it to those said cards of the river rat, and depending on if the prediction is correct or not, you can see who wins. And again, it tells you a little bit of what the deck cards are and the predictions and what you're doing. So I think this one is well worth a look, and I really kind of like this style of things. Again, I'm a big fan of the gang and the game. So if you are, I think this one works right up there. Now, again, similarly, this one has a little bit of the solo element that you can do in addition. One Stop Co-op Shop has you covered there. And what is the price point right now? Why are you backing it? I mean, you're not going to get this anywhere else. This is probably not going to come wide retail whatsoever. All in, $49. You get 2 editions of the game and a playmat with some custom chips. Okay, that's a little more expensive, but you don't need to get that. If you just want 1 edition, it's only going to be $17 plus shipping. So shipping is going to be, another $8. you know, it's a hit or miss. You back it because it's an indie game and you're not going to find it elsewhere. You might be able to get it for maybe a couple bucks less, but is that really worth it? That's what we always got to ask yourself these weeks. So there you go. The other dark horse for me this week is Rotation Rumble. And now I have another game in my collection that this reminds me of, but this one actually looks better because it's a lane battling combo manipulation spinning the cards game. The only problem I have with this one is that you potentially have to deck construct. Now they say there are 16 ready to play micro decks based on the color of the faction that you choose at the beginning of the game of your captain, but then what you essentially do is you play your fighters down in a tableau area of one of the 3 lanes, and you take the active ability below the portrait. However, on a turn-by-turn basis, you also can manipulate all of your other fighters down there by rotating them once, and then combo chain the actions in whatever order you want. Then you subsequently do an attack head-to-head in those lanes. If you are more successful in your attack over the defender's defense, then you get the victory points that are the difference between the two. First one, I believe, to 12 is the winner. So the only question is whether or not these pre-constructeds are going to be good enough for you, or if you really want to deck construct your own. But that's it. That's what you need to know. It says right here, 8 unique 2-player decks. Each cartridge includes 20 fighters. And you also have, that I forgot to mention, about items and flashcards, items as equipables and flashcards as like instants, if you will, that are going to modify things further. So yeah, a little bit of exclusive content in addition. And I think it's just a really nice looking game, and I'm not surprised they're funded. So you're getting a little extra decks here if we hit a few more stretch goals as well. So I like this one. This one is going to be a remind me, and I'm going to add it to my wish list over on Board Game Geek after this as well. So a few reviews if you want to check it out, and it's part of Micro May, which is ongoing with a bunch of these small projects. So I like covering them. And again, similarly, this one gives me very, very close vibes to that, but in a slightly more, well, animal-driven anthropomorphic situation, because it's got $50,000. Pun-filled card battler. So you've got about 15 different types of animals in this 90-ish card deck, where you just kind of play 3 down, and you have to play 3 warriors. You can't play these supports, and that's what you're going to be trying to manage, is that the symbols in the upper left-hand corner are going to determine what type of card it is. So essentially, what you do is you play from your hand. If you have 3, you need to play 3. Otherwise, you have to draw until you get a third. Then you flip them over. Highest number over here in the upper left-hand corner is your initiative speed, and then you get to use the iconography that is present with them in terms of the different actions, 5 to 7 of them or so that are available. These are your supports that are going to modify along the way. And you're just going to go back and forth that way until you knock out someone's morale, but you have to do it twice. I think you have 20 morale essentially that you start with, and so when you knock out someone's morale, they actually go back up to 20, and then they have to just kind of start over. So that'd be my biggest concern, is that does this snowball? If you're the first person to knock out the other opponent, is there sort of a balancing catch-up mechanic? I like the aesthetic. I like the gameplay. The rulebook is relatively straightforward. Here are all the different types of animals. So there's plenty of Kickstarter preview quotes on all these pages today, and you can see what we've got stretch goal-wise. Well, nothing. So if this is your thing, this is your thing, and I think it looks solid. Then I'd say whether or not you want some of these mini expansion packs that offer a little bit of extra asymmetry, you probably don't need them, and it's, you know, probably more content than you'll get to, but it sort of gives me also vibes of the Worm Gold situation, the Woodlands Wizards one that I have over here that I thought was going to be super clever, that ended up falling just a little bit short for me. So, you know, again, with some of these, you just got to be very careful. Cheap does not mean you just automatically buy it, but I like what it's got going on in addition. Speaking of that, though, liking what they've got going on in addition, I'm a big fan of cats. We have 3 cats in our household, so we're talking cat rescue here. The competitive cat-saving game. It's tic-tac-toe 3 in a row, if you will, in a very different way, because essentially you draw one of these cat cards either from the market or from your home or stray area or your home, and then your opponent, if you took one from their home, then causes you to have to draw one from the adoption or the market, if you will. And then you just place them down to slide them across. And if you have 3 or 4 of a matching color in a row orthogonally, then you flip the middle ones in the 3 or 4 grouping, either 1 or 2 of them, over to their other side. That's the back side, that's the adopted side. If you can push off then, because after you slot that one down, you push them all orthogonally in a direction. If you push off an adopted cat, one of the face down ones, you get 2 points. If you push off one that's not flipped over, you lose points. That's the game. And so it's puzzle-like, it's abstract with thematic incorporation. Little mini expansion if you want a little bit of extra power to go along with it. That's it. You get a little bit of stretch goals here, and there you go. Gives you the overview that I just mentioned, match and pushing, and the game ends when all of them have been rescued. So competitive, cooperative, get a little bit of both depending on how you want to play it. And Dead or Alive Games is giving us another good one, $11,000. Then we have Ronin from Queen Games, $13,000, almost 300% funded. And this is sort of a Euro resource management style 4-phase situation game with now a solo mode. There is an overview, there is a rule book, which is a lot better than some of the other Queen ones that I've talked about in the past. I really like seeing that. So what you're doing essentially is you're placing your Ronin in these areas. When you place them down, you're going to be gathering resources from those areas. It's the second phase. The third phase is going to be completing your quest, and the fourth phase is going to be taking the actions that may belong to those areas or those characters. You're going to be having extra bonuses that will go along the way in terms of banners that you can fulfill. Right there, the bonus tiles. And the rule book, like I said, lays you through the different character abilities that are available in those different places, as well as the different actions that you're going to be taking here along the way. It also gives you a little bit of the end game scoring, what that's going to look like after the 4th round. That's about it, right? So I guess the question is, with these types of games, how would you distinguish this from a lot of the other Euro style resource management collection games? And I don't know. But I think it's probably worth watching the video to see if the exact nuance looks good to you, and maybe some of the exact actions and mechanisms on some of these abilities to give you the manipulation and the spatial arrangement that you can see that it's going to potentially do as you move these Ronin from one place to another. So that's Ronin. You know what? I'm talking about this one, Mimic Mansion. And you probably aren't going to hear about this one anywhere else. But I'm mentioning it because actually, if you follow crowdfunding, this company actually has one or two others that you may recognize. Let's talk about it for a second though. Sora Game Studio, because I previously covered Snow Planner and Grow Sky. And Grow Sky has a relatively good rating over on Board Game Geek for sort of a pick up and deliver Euro style game. And this is Mimic Mansion. I don't have a clue how this one plays though. 45 to 75 minutes. You are building your mimic creatures within your ordinary objects and rooms on your estate to surprise your opponents as you go around and have to explore subsequent other people's, sort of like a boss monster situation. But you got your own unique types of mimics that you can create along the way. As it says here, explore the mansion of the player on your left. They suffer damage instead of potentially getting resources if they end up in the wrong room. Then rinse and repeat to the person on your right. Use those gems that you get from exploring their mansion to get more cards, strengthen your own deck, and make your mimic just better. Do that for 8 rounds and that's the game. So it gives me the super boss monster vibe, a few extra cards here that they run through of what you're doing, as well as the different strategies and missions that are going to be available to you. So I think it looks solid. And from their previous offerings, I'd say if this is your vibe, right, it's pretty freaking looking good. So there you go. Dungeon Degenerates. I don't know. This is, the dungeon crawl neon style vibe thing that we have seen now. And this is the 6th printing from Goblinko. So they always do a little bit of an exclusive, I believe, with each of these as well. I'm not going to go over the exact differences of this compared to other open world crawl scenario mission based systems. And it has your narrative campaign that's going to give you the open sandbox feel that you so. What do we got going on here though? Kickstarter exclusive for this campaign, 2 adventurers. Yep, never available again. They're very, very, very specific about that. That's why you see over 150 people right now getting just that one. $48 gets you the new Choose or Lose adventure story, 2 new issues of Die Wurst, and then 2 new playable adventurers that we just saw above. Just the base game. I don't know if that's a good base game price or not. I really haven't paid attention to Dungeon Degenerates, but I know that from what I've seen in the past, this one isn't always widely available. Like, it goes through these surges in and out of print. So again, you get a little bit of extra content, extra expansions, different factions, different mechanics, different characters. So it's a DIY, choose your own, if you will, of what you want and what you get out of this. So I'm not going to break it down any further. The only other thing I'm going to say is that I'm really surprised it's only at $39,000. So, well, we'll see. It's got nearly 2 weeks of me filming this to get that last $27,000. So, I mean, if this is your thing, you've been looking at it, now it's probably not a bad time, but is it for you? Then 3 Magi. So this is another Euro sort of, I wanted to call it originally like a pick up and deliver, but it really doesn't look like a pick up and deliver. It's really a worker placement craft with resource management, like it just says here, as you have this 3 camel caravan that you have to keep adjacent to each other to move across any one of your 3 on a turn by turn basis to gather the resources, crafting the gifts to ultimately make it to Jerusalem at the end of the game. And this is, don't be fooled by the small board size, relatively speaking there, a double phase system of 3-day phase turns followed by a night phase turn, which is where your unique individual player board is also going to come in, as you have to navigate through the stars as you would thematically incorporated for the journey at that time, using those as the way to find where you're trying to go. Pulling up the rulebook here, you can see that, like I mentioned, this is Euro. This is a lot of iconography, although most of it actually looks relatively intuitive, so don't be fooled by the sheer number in that way, at least. The phases of what you're doing on a turn-by-turn basis. You're moving them and using these tiles to gain the rewards that you may need. But again, like I said, you'll notice that in this example, all of these have to stay adjacent to each other. So how you gather these 3 resources from these tiles and the actions that are going to go along with them on the cards that you're going to be acquiring to then eventually craft these gifts, well, I mean, it's kind of a nice combo system. The advancing on the navigation board, again, is very similar in how you're going to be gathering your resources in a different way. And if you want to see how this actually plays out, I'd really honestly suggest checking out one of those videos here so that you can see sort of what this may offer in terms of different vibes for more of a Euro resource management as a whole. But it's not a hard rulebook to read. It's just got a lot of information in terms of just what they're putting on the pages itself. But you can see that it's really only, well, 7 double pages here. And it's not bad at all from that aspect. So hopefully the strategy is what gives it the depth, not the depth of the rulebook. And it gives you a little expansion to go along the way, which is completely modular in terms of adding more mechanics in terms of the wisdom, more places to go, more tokens, more merchant cards, as well as a 5th player down here if you're so interested. Little add-ons here if you want some frankincense or myrrh or a metal coin. And there you go. What's the minigame? Minigame. Oh, play it online, get some social goals. That's it. So there you go, Bedone Games. And, well, it's funded. So if this is your interest, I'll give this one a look as well. Cowboys Vs Zombies pocket game, $7,500. It's flipping over cards and using dice to mitigate an attack as you slowly reveal, hopefully, the 3 kids that are hostages hidden within this deck and knocking out the zombies as you go. You do it over 3 rounds and you're trying to, well, save those kids as you go along. If it's a child card, keep it. If it's a zombie card, fight it. If you've exhausted the game deck, it's over. You heal up. If the child's with you, they're saved. Move on to the next round, or figure out whether or not you've won at the end. It's a solo game. There you go. Grinning Frog, and they say they do a monthly game club, so if you're interested in that and getting some of their other stuff here, well, it looks like we've got some upcoming ones that you can check out in addition. $7,500 though. It's pretty good. I actually missed this one last week, so truth be told, I'm throwing it in now. Lifeboats. This is a previous game that is getting a reprint, and I think this is, well, a new sort of theme incorporated. I don't think the other one is nearly as pretty. So $28,000 as for a game you really couldn't get previously because it was kind of out of print. As it says here, Grail game is back. 3 to 7 players for deduction. Again, this is another one I'm adding to my potential watch list, and I'm going to add the click remind me right there. So this is, like it says, pure negotiation, right? All you're trying to do in a survive the island, as I covered earlier in this year, is get your people and captains over to the islands that are at the opposite end of the board over here. And all you have to do is move your boat across with your people in it. However, your people are all spread through all the boats. And so this game is really probably going to be best at least at 4 or 5. 6 or 7 could be a little bit too much, I'd wonder. But you know what? You can check it out yourself. So essentially what you're doing, though, on a turn-by-turn basis is you vote, and vote. And you vote on first which boat is going to get a leak. If there's no empty spot, then you vote on which of the people in the boat is going to get lost. Then you vote on which boat is going to move. Rinse and repeat until it's all taken care of. It's vicious. It's take that. It's negotiation. It looks probably pretty freaking sweet for a backstabbing game like other people are saying there. So yeah, I'm interested in this one, and I think this would go over really well with my kids. Oh, gosh darn it. I was not planning on doing this. Okay, Mayday, you got me. $28,000. There you go. Tell them I sent you. Now we're talking Bonesway, Luminis, Refuge. And I had this one on my radar as my ones to watch for May. And again, I look at this and I go, as a miniature-driven scenario crawl-esque game, why is this one only at 11,000 euros with 100 backers, right? I don't know. It's just intriguing to me. And again, it's one of those where why does one of these get so much money and why doesn't another one? And again, I have no idea. No freaking clue with this. Cooperative, narrative, all of the keywords you've seen, you've saw across the board numerous times. Miniature driven, deluxe edition, bundle to go along with it. It's not super high priced. You can get the standee version if you're like me. There's stretch goals going to be unlocked, potentially, maybe not. Gameplay, though, that's the big question mark, right? Okay, you have recruits. Those are your characters, the different asymmetric classes based on their unique abilities. Okay, kind of cool. The enemies that are going to go along with that, small to big, everything that you can see kind of here. And then you start getting to the gameplay. Okay, choose your team, get their squad, get their abilities, and then navigate the quest-based system that they have here as well with a dice-based success or fail. Interaction points, mysteries, and clues gathered along the way. So the only question I would say, just like with the other Euros, is that what is your unique mechanic that sets you apart from the other games that occupy this same realm of mechanical approach, thematic incorporation, right? And I don't see any of that on the page. I don't get any of that from the page in the first place. So I just don't know. And I don't say that as a bad thing, but I say as a, you know what? Show me. Don't necessarily just give me that stuff. It just doesn't have enough on the page for me to get that sense. Now, we've got a couple of videos. If you scroll back up here, you have a preview video, and a best of the month discussion, but that doesn't tell me why I should be interested in your game comparatively to others. So maybe that's the issue, or is it just nobody knew about it? So we'll see, but they've got a big uphill battle. There you go, Bonesway. Do you like animal trivia? Fauna, the animal trivia game. I actually, again, I look at this one and I go, this would actually be interesting for me and my family to play, because, I mean, even the 4-year-old could play this. You get a bunch of cubes, you have 360 different animals that you're going to be trying to guess the characteristics of by placing your cubes out on locations in the board. You only get points if you're right. The more cubes you have in the right areas, the more points you get. But you may run out of cubes and you may not get the ones you want. They upgraded this. This is actually a 2nd edition that you have. And so I like the idea of this. But the problem I have is it's, $55 before shipping, because you're getting a lot of other extras. Now, okay, we'll get past the preview videos here. Where is what I was looking at earlier? Okay, the stretch goals, again, getting a little extra. Wristbands, I don't want wristbands. I just want the game for a cheaper price. Freebies, again, I just want the game. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If we go down to the stretch goals here, it's fine. You can get a game bag and a wristband. I just kind of want the game. So just give me a smaller price point and less deluxeifications, because they also give you a little bit of extras here, right? They talk about it. Where is it? That there is a new map design that I just mentioned. 72-page booklet. Again, I think this is great educationally, but from a board game purist side standpoint, I'm not as big a fan. And I don't think I need this to be double-sided. Just make it imperial or metric. I think that's fine, but I also go, well, I'm just not going to use one side. Which side am I going to use? Yeah, I'm going to use metric just to mess with my kids. But anyway, I like the idea of this one. I'm just not sure it's worth $75 before, I get it in my hands from that aspect. So again, I have to be a little picky. So I'd probably go with some of the other indie ones before this one, but I think this looks solid just from a trivia standpoint. So there you go. Fauna. Last up, Roblins. You buy goblins that are robbing from your opponent in a tower defense manner. You build your defense with your hexes around your treasure. Roads and things along the way do damage. You put your goblins next to them and they either get taken out or steal the stuff that's left there. That's it, right? Game setup, the terrains, the course of play. Like I just mentioned, draw your cards, place your terrain, defend your treasure as the goblins attack you in the order that your opponent sends them. Then rinse and repeat. As soon as someone's treasure is over, you lose. What's the price point for this one? Let's check. Go back up here. 25 euros. There you go. That is it. Shipping timeline. I'm just curious now. Yeah, okay. So if you're in Europe, it's not too bad shipping wise. And if you're in the rest of the world, though, it might cost you almost as much as it's a game. There you go. That is the last one up this week. And that is Roblins. Well, it might be funded by the time you guys are looking. So give it a look. That's all I got. That is the roundup this week. It's been tough making videos, I won't lie. I've been having a tough time getting motivated this past week. Just a lot of work stuff, a little bit of that stuff I mentioned at the beginning. And, you know, you just go through these phases when you're on this side of the camera. Sometimes you're just super excited. I can film 2 or 3 of these videos at night after my kids go to bed. And sometimes my low effort content is just really struggling. So I know, right? Got to get motivated to be a troll. Anyway, I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you for watching. YouTube channel membership. I'm going to be figuring out that between that and Patreon, whatever that's going to look like. And maybe have a news video, another rant video, and just other things to get myself in trouble. Hopefully not, but there you go. So thank you for watching. Stay classy. Peace out. See you around.